I mean, and you're so ambitious over the years and years. Just like you said, like this time we want to do. I read in interviews like pop music. Like last time you want to be more harder. Like you try to get individual concepts, and I mean, this needs so much power and so much work over the years. Where do you take this energy? I mean, I would feel like after, I don't know, have you ever had a moment where you felt like burned out, like because you're so ambitious?
It's actually it's actually the opposite feeling for us, in that it's, in order for each album to feel really interesting and fun to make for me, I want to go in learning something. So, and this has been true, like this is our 7th studio record. Our first 2, Hybrid Theory and Meteora, were kind of, they were more similar in style. And then starting with the next one and everything after it, with each one, we are almost like reinventing the band to some degree, sometimes more, sometimes maybe less. But we're trying to figure out, you know, what do we not know? What can we try that we haven't tried before? So on One More Light, we went into it in the very beginning. We had just been coming off of The Hunting Party, which is a very heavy record, and had an awesome, I mean, making the album was super fun. Touring it was super fun, minus a stint where Chester broke his leg, which was not fun.
It was not fun.
But the end of it, once we got back on the road, did some shows like that. It ended, you know, and we did some great shows with the record. And I mean, the only thing I felt like was missing from that was that we didn't get to play all the songs. You know, we had some other songs on the record that we didn't actually get to play at a certain point because we just had to stop and come back home and start recording. We finished the tour. I stopped in London because I had this idea, like, I know there are people out there who write songs but don't perform them. They write them for other people, or they write with other people, and I have no idea what that is. Like, I've never experienced that myself. So, because we've always written all our own stuff, just us. And I stopped in London and I met with a couple people who do that, and I picked their brain. I actually, at the first meeting I had was with a guy named Justin Parker, who's written for Lana Del Rey and a bunch of other people. And I said, you know, explain to me, like, what do you do? I don't know. I don't understand that whole thing. And he did. And then the next day I met with a guy named Egg White, who's written for Adele and Florence and the Machine. And I asked him, what do you do? And their answers were actually different. Like, really, you know, what they liked about what they did and how they do it. And the more we got into that world, the more I had this fear in the back of my head that if you work with somebody like that, that they would come in and like pitch you a song and be like, I want to do this. Or they would come in and what we would make wouldn't sound like us. And the more we did it, the more I met with people, and the more we did it as a group. It was usually me and Brad, and then like most of the time, or some of the time, Chester. The more we did it, I realized, like, no, we actually have such a strong point of view that it still sounds like us, and we're driving the song still. And these people are coming in and they're helping out, you know, to some degree, sometimes less, sometimes more, but it still sounds like Linkin Park. And I was like, oh, this is going to be really fun, because it's just like having more ideas in the room, you know. It gets there faster, and the quality I felt like was really good. I was going to say better, but I don't think it's, I think we've always got this certain threshold of quality. It always has to hit a mark. And so it was just hitting that mark faster for me.
Yeah, I had the same impression, like after listening to all the songs, to the 10 songs, I felt like like a really individual new mood. Because like you mentioned that you work with different songwriters, and also there's the piano in most of the songs in the spotlight. And it was really, like I said, like really soft, but the lyrics are really intense. And just to talk about Heavy, about the first single, I mean, I just wrote down, like, I don't like my mind right now, staking up problems that are so unnecessary. Like, this is like one example. It's really personal. So I was just wondering, like, it seems like that you've been through a number of issues over the last couple of years and just working on that album. Can you just give us a clue what actually was inside you as you wrote it down? Are there any special?
Well, you know, I mean, being in Linkin Park, it has a lot of perks, and it's really a fun life, and it's a blessed life. You know, I get to do what I love to do with really talented and exceptionally decent people. You know what I mean? Like everyone in the band they're all really good guys. But at the same time, like none of us are immune from, you know, just shit happening to you, you know, and or not to you, but just kind of making poor choices, or, you know, being human. Like there's always that element. And for me, like I think I kind of reached a place in 2015 when I broke my leg. I was in Linkin Park, I was in Stone Temple Pilots, I was a dad, I was like trying to manage all this stuff. I had just gotten done, like, I feel like I've literally been in like rehabbing injuries since I was 30. Ever since I tore my disc in my back, like I've just been like constantly rehabbing a surgery, an injury, a surgery, you know, like it just kind of, I got to a point where I was like, you know, medicating, kind of having issues with that, kind of like, you know, falling back into old habits, into old, you know, behaviors. And I really got to a point, and I got, you know, lost some really close people to me quickly, and was having trouble with all of my relationships, not just like at home, but like with my friends, with just myself, everything. And life got really weird and really hard all at one time. And, you know, I'm like this person who, like, you know, thinks I can do like, I just want to do anything I want to do, like when I want to do it. And I feel like I can figure it out. And that works sometimes, but I found like when I broke my leg and it was so bad, like it wasn't just like, oh, I broke my leg, like I can kind of heal in 8 weeks, I'll be back on, like, it was like, I broke the crap out of it. And I needed like reconstructive surgery and like plates and screws and more surgery, and like it was like, whoa, you know, it was nasty. And that kind of took me into like a depression that really was hard to get out of. And then you know, I realized at that point, like, I can't do all this stuff if everything isn't perfect and running exactly the way it's supposed to. One thing falls off the cart and like the whole thing gets ruined. It's like pulling an apple, like you see a nice stack of apples at the grocery store, and it's beautiful and like it's really nice, and then you grab the bottom one and the whole thing goes down, and next thing you know, it takes like all these people to clean up the mess. Right? Everything's ruined, right?
Like, that's my life.
We were talking about it in the studio, and like Mike had made a list of all the things that not only like some of the stuff that he knew I was going through, and then some of the stuff he was going through, and some of the stuff he knew like our friends and like other guys in the band were going through. It was like a list of like 50 things. And it was like each one of them was on its own really, really hard to go through.
It was like each one was a Netflix.
It was like
Netflix series.
It was like one of our friends died of cancer. My stepdad died of cancer. I broke my leg, and I had to rehab that for a year. I quit Stone Temple Pilots because it was just too much. It was too much. I felt bad about that. You know,
that times like
and then
10 times.
And then I was like, yeah, depressed, and I was like, you know, drinking again, and then I was like doing all this stuff, and I was just like, dude, like this is crazy. And you know, all my relationships were struggling, like everything was struggling, and it was just really tough. And so there was like just enough things to kind of keep me wanting to go. But yeah, I mean, like you were saying earlier, I don't think it was burnt out from just like, man, like I just need a break. I was burnt out because I was just like, fuck the world. Like, not like I need a break. Like, honestly, like, fuck all of you, like everybody and everything. And I don't like doing anything anymore. Like, nothing makes me happy. I don't like anyone. I even told one of my therapists at one point, I said, I just don't want to feel anything. I kind of envy sociopaths because they don't have to worry about ever feeling shit. I kind of want that. And she's like, you mean you don't want to be a human being? I was like, yep, that's what I want.
There's one funny thing that he touched on that like people don't know about. I mean, you can kind of guess about Chester. Like when he's you know, broken his arm on stage years ago, and he broke it, and we were like, okay, do we need to? It was like the beginning of the show. Like, do we need to stop the show? And he's like, well, it's going to be as broken in an hour as it is right now. And we were like, what? And he's like, yeah, let's just play. It's like, it fucking hurts, but let's just play. Like, he's the kind of guy that's going to just like power through anything, right? And it's like, something's going on, like, oh, it's going to take you, 8 months to rehab your injury. Chester's going to be like, I'm going to get it done in 6. I'm going to be running a marathon in 6.
Yeah, I ran a marathon in 8 months, and I was back on doing shows with SDP. I broke it in January, and I was on the road in April. I should not have been doing that,
But he's gonna try. He's gonna put in the work too. He's not necessarily like you'd think. Oh, he's like doing it and he shouldn't be doing it. Like I watch him like put in the work. Like he really works hard to do all the things he wants to do, right? And those are things you can control. Like you can control. Like, oh, I need to go to the gym every day. I need to do my stretches every day. I need to take my medicine every day. I need to do whatever. And he'll do all those things. And then for anybody especially a person who's like that, like if things happen to you where it's like, no, you literally can't control this. You literally can do zero about this. And you're like, no, but I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And it's like, no, I don't care that's,
stuff, no? Sounds like...
No, it's control. Like we all have this feeling that like, you want to have certain amount of control over your life, right? Like, oh, like today I was going to go for a run in the park. Oh, it's raining. I can't go for a run in the park. It's like, well, actually you do have control over that. You could put on, rain clothes and go out in the rain and do your run. Oh, we're going to have a birthday party and then now it's raining. Like, no, you do not have control over that. You now cannot do that. No, you're not going to put everybody out there in the rain. It's not going to happen. So then you're upset and you feel more because you've now lost control. You feel so terrible, right? I think there's an element that specific thing, like all those things that Chester was saying and that specific idea of like, there's things we can control. We can control our reactions to things. We control how we handle things, but there's also things you can't. And this record, like that is at the core of a lot of the record.
And that's kind of like, touching on Heavy in the lyrics, that's kind of like what Heavy is about ultimately. It's like that idea that, I find myself personally, like when I'm stuck, it's because I haven't just surrendered to the process of life. I'm trying to like be in there and do things my way. I'm trying to steer the ship or whatever. And, there was a few times over the last couple of years where I was just like kind of like ready to throw in the towel and just kind of give up on everything. But the competitive side of me is like, no, fuck that. Like I'm going to punch this thing out and I'm not going to take back control of my life. I'm actually going to let go of everything. And it's kind of like, that's really the punchline of Heavy is if I could just let go, I'd be set free. Like I found that for me, most of my suffering is self-inflicted. It's not like it's coming from some external source that's making me feel that way. I can easily find myself tricking myself into thinking that like, okay, you said I was 40 something and that made me mad. No, honestly, like, no, it's like that's not anything. It's it's not, no one can make you feel anything. It's what you think about internally that makes you feel things. Like you are the only person that makes you feel anything. And so, I learned through this whole journey, and it resonated with me. It was like, you can elevate your consciousness, you can elevate your spirituality by just acknowledging that there's a problem. And then once you do that, you've created space between you and that problem. And now you've actually got a little, even if it's just for a moment, like you have a second to kind of reflect and breathe on it. And that's kind of what I've just been doing. Like, okay, like I know that I have this pattern of getting into these kinds of thoughts and these kinds of, actions and choices. And I'm going to do what I need to do so that I can just live in the moment and not get stuck in these ruts where I'm kind of in this circular way of thinking, these patterns. And that's kind of what Heavy's about, it's like just figuring that out, recognizing it, and then realizing like I actually can do something about it and like let go of this and move forward, you know?